Hi, and welcome to another Costa Women Zoom with me, Fiona. And today I have a lovely lady who is like practically on another planet, you'd think, given how long it's taken us to connect. It's Karen. Good. It's good evening for me. And what is it for you?
It's good morning. I'm in California at the moment,
Yeah.
so I'm on a completely different time zone.
Yeah. And it's taken us a while to get together. So it was supposed to be earlier on in the summer to talk about travel tips, which is a bit of a clue as to what you do. So tell us all what you do.
I'm a travel writer. I was a journalist throughout my career. I have sort of a checkered past like most people, but journalist, marketing person, and so on. But when I came to Spain, I got so inspired. I started writing about my experiences, and it grew into books and blogs and a website and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So it's been great. I call it Enjoy Living Abroad, which kind of gives you an idea of my attitude about the whole thing.
Cool. So how long have you been in California, and what are you doing there at the moment?
Well, we usually come here in the summer because I don't know if you've heard this or not, but it gets really hot in southern Spain in the summer. And
It passed me by, really?
yeah, it definitely does a little bit. And so we usually try to come back for a few months in the summer and maybe for a month in the winter as well. We have family, friends, business interests, and so on here
Mhm.
in California. I grew up here. I'm a fourth generation Californian. So we pop in, we see everybody, and it's great because we come for such a compact space of time that it starts with a whole bunch of welcome back dinners that just sort of morph right into farewell dinners, and then we're gone. So we eat a lot. We eat with friends a lot. It's great. We really have a good time. So
Oh, excellent.
yeah,
And whereabouts in Spain are you based?
Seville,
Okay. Super.
right in the downtown old Centro part.
Oh, excellent. So
Yeah.
what was the first sort of spark of the travel blog, and how did it evolve?
Well, people kept telling me that I should write about my experiences. You know, I would send letters home, Christmas letters, all that sort of stuff. And I really enjoyed it. It was a chance to be a lot more personal and funnier than I got to be in my professional journalism career. And it just really blossomed as a form of writing for me. And I thought, well, yeah, at some point I will do it. And then one day I just woke up and this book was in my head about our transition from Cleveland, Ohio to Seville, Spain. My husband immediately whisked me off to Cleveland, Ohio as soon as we got married. But we were only there for 20 years. So after that, we moved to Seville.
Mhm.
And the transition was so interesting and so zany. We brought our dog. We had no idea what we were doing. We just sort of floundered around. And it was great and it was fun and it was exciting. And all of a sudden, this book idea was in my head really in its totality. So I
Mhm.
sat down and started writing it. And I was about halfway through when it suddenly dawned on me that I was going to need to tell the world a little something about the book, or no one was going to read it but Rich, me, and the dog. So I decided to go ahead and start a blog. Everyone said start a blog. I had no idea what a blog was. I mean, I read them, but I didn't know how to do one. Put that together, and it's actually become this steady heartbeat of my writing life. Once a week, I publish something, and I really love doing it. It's a way of this having a constant conversation with my readers,
Mm.
and a lot of fun. I really, really like it. Mostly on travel themes, but other themes as well.
And what was the biggest sort of red tape stumbling block that you found with Spain? People don't believe you sometimes when they say Spain is different.
Well, it's just you have to switch the chip in your head and accept the fact that you are going to be waiting in ridiculously long lines. People are going to give you all sorts of misinformation. I don't know if they do it deliberately or if it's just I'm misunderstanding it. It almost doesn't matter. You have to accept that everything is going to take forever. And once you do that, it's fine.
Mm.
Um, you know, neither of us had full-time jobs or anything. Rich was fully retired. I was writing, but real flexible. So if we have to spend half an hour or 3 hours waiting at the tourist information office or the office of foreigners or whatever, getting our papers done, it was not going to be the end of the world. So we would bring our books and some water and a snack and just
Yes.
settle in. Rather than in America, when we're confronted by these things, we tend to sort of stomp our feet and grit our teeth and grouse a lot because we expect it to be efficient. But once you accept that it's not going to be efficient and grousing isn't going to do any good,
Yeah.
it's fine. I mean, it's very zen. I am
Yeah.
now a much.
Trying to change it is no point.
No, I'm not going to change it at all. No.
So, how did you come across Costa Women, and how did we connect in the general sense?
Well, you guys were my first big break. When I was first starting the blog and just getting going, and I'd signed up for Costa Women a couple of months before I'd run across you on the internet. And
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm in Seville and you guys tend to be a little bit further down the coast, I felt this connection and it was really fun. And I read a lot of articles and Allie and I communicated some. And all of a sudden she reached out and said, we'd really like to interview you. Well, I was so excited. It was the first interview I'd done since I'd started this whole sort of media program. And it was really thrilling. And I still have it on my website. I reprinted it because you guys have, you know, it requires being a member to see it. But it was really a wonderful moment in the transition from I have an idea to actually it becoming a reality. So that was in 2012, somewhere early in 2012.
Cool. So do you get a chance to connect with other Costa women in that area? Or do you sort of like have to wait and come towards us a little bit?
Yeah, there's not a lot in my area at all. I have written back and forth with people online a number of times, but I've never actually face-to-face in the flesh met a Costa woman that I know of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to see if we can, like, you know, move a little bit more in your direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as the blog has progressed then, sort of, is there a theme or a project that you're focusing on at the moment, or is it just a general progression?
Well, it's a fairly broad subject, travel, but at the moment I'm really focusing on travel with meaning. I think that when people travel, we all travel for different reasons. Some people travel to relax and just want to go lie on a beach, and that's great. I do that myself occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, I'm a more active person, and I like to have sort of a little purpose for a trip. For example, Rich and I were coming back from a very long train trip. We've been on the road for 3 months. We were traveling back through northern Italy, and we had just hit an area that we actually knew fairly well. And it was the end of this long trip, and I was feeling a little deflated. Like, you know, the end of a trip is always a little bit of a letdown. And so I said, we can't have this happen. So one of the things that we often do under circumstances like this is we go on a dive bar pub crawl. We whatever city we're in, and we see if we can find some really, I mean, not bars where you'll be killed or anything. Let me be clear about that, or even get a major disease. But, you know, kind of a down and dirty neighborhood place with maybe a little duct tape on the bar stools and, you know, probably a little stale beer on the floor, but also with a lot of colorful local characters and way off the tourist track.
Wow.
And cheap drinks and a relaxed atmosphere. Nobody cares what you look like, or you can pay your bar tab, you're welcome there.
Yeah.
Like that. So we did all the way through northern Italy that last 4 or 5 days of our trip. We just went to all sorts of crazy places.
Excellent.
And all these other cities. And the people were wonderful. And when we told them what we were doing, if they spoke enough English for us to really communicate, they thought it was hilarious. Usually they said, oh, this isn't actually a dive bar. And we go, oh, no, I don't mean you. Have to say that they're a dive bar, but I said, you know, it is sort of almost within the range, so we wanted to just come check it out, and they're always really welcome. And they tell us neighborhood stories, and
oh, cool. Actually, that reminds me, I was on a bus from Port Authority in New York going to New Jersey Island in New Jersey, and came across similar sort of characters like that. So that's
bus travel in America is really good for that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Well, so then talk a little bit about the red tape that you've had to come across, which there isn't really any. It's like you said, it's the whole manana, but it just everything takes so long. So if somebody else or a lady was following, as Ali said, following the Spanish Dream, what would be your number one top tip?
Well, if someone dreams of Spain, I actually get letters a lot from people say, I have thought about Spain for years, maybe all my life, really thinking about moving there. The first thing I say is come for a visit. And if you can, come for several visits or stay for a fairly long period of time. I don't know how you found it, but in our little corner of Seville, I have on many an occasion ran across somebody who came for one sun-drenched, wine-soaked weekend of vacation in Seville and said, that's it, I want to move there. And in some cases, I know this one woman, for example, she went back to San Francisco, sold everything, moved back to Seville, and she arrived. It was January and it was raining and she wasn't really on vacation. She was living there and she was absolutely miserable. unbelievable. She lasted 6 months and I was surprised it was that long.
Oh my
It
God.
was the right place for her. So my advice is check it out. Decide which city really appeals to you. I always advise people to think of the cities first, because if you're in the middle of the country, unless you really like your solitude, it's probably not a good fit, because the locals, the people out in the country are much less used to having foreigners in their midst. So they don't reach out as much. City people are a little bit more cosmopolitan, and they think they're kind of amusing. With the country, kind of generally don't get it. And so you may find yourself quite isolated if you buy that old farmhouse that's crumbling away and you decide you're going to fix it up, and you assume that it's going to be with the help of these charming locals that are going to be so wise and earthy. It's usually not like that. It's construction people that drive you crazy, etc. But cities have a little bit more fluidity, and they have an expat base. I think it's really important to remember that as an expat, you're going to want to know other expats. You're not going to want 100% immersion in the Spanish community, because it's so nice to have somebody that you can tell a joke to and they get what you're saying. It's the context of your remarks, and you can just kind of let your hair down a little bit and say, does it strike you as odd that I had to wait for 45 minutes to get the woman at Corte Inglés to take my money? All these things that happen when you're here, and you just need somebody to share them with.
I understand what you mean. So do you live in and out of a suitcase? I mean, do you have a go-to travel sort of packing system or item?
Oh yeah, and I get asked that so often. I have all sorts of information about packing on my website, because people seem to be insatiable on the topic. No matter how often I publish, I keep getting letters asking for more. One small rollerboard bag is all I ever carry. And maybe a purse, but really that's more for like water bottles and a sweater and a map. I often wear one of those multi-pocket vests that are very discreet, and you can tuck all sorts of stuff inside of,
cool.
so that I don't get robbed when I'm in really odd places.
On your dive bar tour.
Yeah, exactly. In a dive bar in Bulgaria, you want to actually be maybe a teeny bit careful. But it's I would say take less. Most of my women friends really struggle with this, but it is entirely possible to dress with at least reasonable stylishness and a great degree of comfort from one small suitcase. We do it often. We've done it twice. Twice we've traveled for 3 months on trains, and each of us just bought one small rollerboard bag, and maybe a little day pack, just as I say, for bottled water and your Kindle or whatever. Stuff for the train. But you can live out of a suitcase really comfortably if you pack with a practical frame of mind. You don't need a pair of shoes for every outfit. I don't even take a hairdryer anymore, because, and I need one to make my hair look even, I mean, it's not wonderful, but it's just nuts if I don't do it. But I make sure that in the travels that I do, at least every 3 or 4 days when I'm on a long trip, I'm at a place that has a hair dryer, and I blow dry my hair, and so I think that when you really start to get practical about what you truly need on the road, it's very little. And it's so wonderful to take a small suitcase instead of having to haul around a big one and really struggle up and down stairs and stuff. Once my husband and I took a 6-day trip with no luggage whatsoever. This was this crazy dream he had, and he had it for 20 years, and he kept trying to talk me into it, and I told him he was insane. But we read an article about someone who had done it, a couple that had gone out with just a little tiny amount of stuff. And so he said, put on that vest of yours, stuff the pockets full of whatever we're going. And we did. We went up to France, from Seville up to southern France, and we went on this whole long trip, and we were on all sorts of transportation. That's the bare minimum. After you've done that, and it really was no big deal. I mean, we just washed everything, and everything was instant, that really fast drying stuff, and it was fine. And so after you've done that, living out of one small suitcase is nothing.
It's like a luxury. So have you thought of extending the blog to a fashion line for travelers, perhaps, the wash and wear, easy fold, pack type fashion items?
Well, I talk about this stuff on my blog, although to tell you the truth, now that you say it, I haven't done much about the clothing. So maybe that would be my next how to pack article, because I've really researched it a lot lately. And I found some wonderful product lines here in the States, but you can certainly mail order them into any part of the world now. And it makes all the difference. I just bought this dress, not this one, but somewhat similar, sundress kind of thing. You can wad that thing up, shove it into the tiniest corner of your suitcase, take it out, shake it, and put it on. That's my kind of clothing.
Yeah.
I haven't touched an iron and I can't remember how long, because all my clothes are travel clothes now. I don't buy anything that can't do that.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think my iron has been plugged in for a very long time. I don't even know where the ironing board is. And yeah, no, it can be done. Yeah, I'm sure it can be done. I remember when I was in America, like a long time ago now, I was working on the summer camps there for 3 months as a student, and we lived out of like a rucksack for 3 months, and that was it really. As long as you can access to wash your clothes and things like that, it can be done. It's not glamorous, but it can be done.
Yes, yes, and it takes practice. I mean, you don't go cold turkey from 5 suitcases to 1 little backpack. You work your way down. You know, you do it a little bit each time, and you figure out what you can eliminate, and so and you start feeling so much lighter and freer and more ready to go places. And that's the point.
Okay, very interesting. So on your blog, so one last question and before we must go, on your blog, is there an article about the dive bar tour? Because I think that's the bit I'm most interested in, you know, top tips, things to avoid, how to stay alive and that sort of thing.
Well, yes, definitely. I've written 3 or 4 blog posts on it, and each time I talk about what is the definition of a dive bar, how do you pick where your life will actually be in jeopardy. It's really just to go to some place that's kind of funky and colorful. And Seville's great. Seville's full of what I consider dive bars, little tiny hole in the wall places, but they're just neighborhood places. They're not places for nefarious characters to hang out and do dark deeds. They're just places to go for cheap beer and little friendly conversation. So yes, I have a whole section on my website, just dive bars of the world. You can find all my dive bar stuff there.
And what's the name of your website, Karen?
Enjoy Living Abroad.
Enjoy Living Abroad. Listen, thank you ever so much. I'm glad we finally connected. And I look forward to reading your blog. I know Ali is very efficient. She puts all the links in underneath this video. And hopefully one day I do plan to have a Costa Women on tour event, and we will get to Seville and I'll come on a dive bar tour with you. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You're on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
See you soon. Bye-bye.